So, okay, so we've kind of covered director and the people you're dealing with there. So moving up a notch, now you got to be producer. So now the producer's really interacting mostly with the director and the actors, or how would you describe that process?
Again, it's different in reality TV and in film. Like an executive producer on a film is a much different person than an executive producer on a reality show.
Yeah.
Executive producer on a film is more the person who's like usually finding the money or buying the project or really kind of funding the whole thing.
With the money guy.
In my experience and being in a reality show, there are some of those people as well who are like the production company may get an executive producer. But my job is called showrunner. I'm executive producer and showrunner. And they have that same title in scripted as well. Basically, my job is running the whole show. Like I'm responsible, the way that I see it, for everything that you see on from keeping the show on budget, making sure the creative is right. And when I did Top Model, I was executive producer and showrunner. Although there were other EPs on the show, I really sort of took it as my responsibility to make sure that everything was right. And that's down to hiring. I wouldn't hire the PAs, but I would make sure that like someone was managing that in the right way.
How do you get those gigs? How do you get the gig of being a producer for a show? Just you have experience, you have a track record, and people call you, or you sell ideas, or
many different ways as well. There's no set rules to how Hollywood works. I know some producers who just come up with an idea, know a guy, find an agent, sell a show. I'm an EP all of a sudden. Like anyone in this room could probably do that. Although it might not be easy, but it can happen, and I've seen it happen. I got really lucky to be a producer because as I was a director for Real World, I was also making another short film with my wife and some friends of mine, and sort of producing that and directing, and I wrote it. And I didn't realize that the company that I worked for, which was Bunim and Murray, who produces the Real World, and they still do. They sort of heard that I was doing that, and I think they saw that and they were like, well, this he's producing his own stuff. Do you want to produce our show? And I was like, I didn't want to be a producer at that point. So they asked me to do it. I kind of told them no. And then talked to my wife, and then 10 minutes later I was like, yes, I would really like that job. It'd be stupid to not take that job. So, so I just got a lucky shot, and luckily I didn't up too bad.
You made money for them.
Yeah, I made a little money for them, exactly, yeah.
So they called you back.
And they called me back, and then I did some other stuff. And then after I did my Real World, the CBS network executive, the guy who put Survivor on the air and put Amazing Race on the air and put Top Model on the air, he noticed, and I got called into his office, and he's like, "Oh, do you want to do Big Brother?" And I'm like, "No, I really don't like that show," which was probably really stupid of me to say, but at the same time, he probably liked that someone would come into his office and say, like, "I don't really like that show." So being naive sometimes is definitely helpful. So I did. So he offered me to work on Big Brother. I said no, and I was like, "What else you got?" And then like a few weeks later, he called me. He's like, "Do you want to do Amazing Race?" And I interviewed for the job, didn't get the job, talked to my agent. I was like, why didn't I get the job? I'm really good for this job. I know I can do it. And then I got another interview for the job, and then I got the job. So I got, again, kind of lucky to get that job.
Well, when they call you in and they try to interview you for the job, what are they asking for? What do they want? What are you trying to communicate?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, what they were looking for in me, I think, was probably, because like when I interviewed for Top Model, for example, I'm sure Tyra interviewed me to make sure I wasn't an asshole or a creep or whatever, and can do the job. Like I had the track record, and she knew that I would be her champion.
Right.
And that's what she was looking for, I think. And also the other producers on the show wanted to know that I can do the nuts and bolts technical stuff of it. And I sort of talked about my background in cinematography and background in filmmaking and all that sort of stuff. And the success of Amazing Race, which was obviously a huge plus. Yeah. And so I got that job.